We could break it into the first 20 or the second 20, but I thought it was funny when someone said, hey, I always just skip ahead right to the 20-minute mark. So for those of you joining, welcome. You missed all the bull. And now here we go with our first guest.
I love it. And speaking of redirecting, we were supposed to have Samara Jaffe on today. She's the founder of Transform. For those of you that are going to Transform, it is right around the corner. But Samara has to focus on her mom today. We'll have her back. We'll have her on soon. Maybe a post-Transform wrap up. So no, Samara, surprise, surprise. I love it when we get to pivot like this. I wanted to have Gerry back anyway. Gerry was on with us last year. And for those of you who know and love Gerry Crispin, there's lots of conversations we could have with Gerry.
Hey, just, can I stop you for a second?
Yeah.
Just because before he comes on video, it's important. Just like with Brian Summer last week, we did tie or no tie.
Ooh.
For Gerry, are you going to say hat or
Hat or no hat?
He probably doesn't have, he's going to do the opposite of what I say. So I'm going to say no hat.
Gerry, I'm putting all the chips on no hat.
Oh, 2 no hats? Let's see what we get. But sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I wanted to make sure that I did it before JC brought him on. Continue.
Lexi said, I've never seen his head. I saw a Gerry doppelganger in Chicago a few years ago, and I took a picture. Like, this guy literally had the same hat, like literally could have been Gerry, but I knew it wasn't. I took a picture of him and I sent it.
Now the question is, did he just put that on or was it on the whole time?
No. It was on. But you know, it's
Here we go.
It's a clean head. God only made a few, perfect heads. The rest he covered with hair.
I can tell Lexi is smiling big right now.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
Someone just said, look at Lexi just said, I love your head, Gerry.
Well, it's there.
All of the thoughts that are in it and the outside.
It's a fun thing. I love the post on retire.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, thank you, Gerry.
It's I think we should be doing that every year, figuring that out. That's great.
Yeah. Well, Gerry, you wrote something. I was asking you to cameo on today anyway with Samara. So thanks for being here with us. I have to be honest, more than one person have reached out and asked me why I'm not talking about this repealing of DEI business, knowing how much I care about this topic. There's no repealing of, like, nobody repealed anything. There are things that changed, but did we repeal DEI as a society? No, nobody was repealed. No strategy that you care about was repealed. No culture, like nobody can repeal your culture, your belief system, like, but yes, there is a conversation to be had about what's happening right now. And you wrote something that I really appreciated for its perspective, and it was the signals versus noise piece. And that's why I asked you, can you come on and just help us out here? And I'm sure Jackye will have a thing or two to say about this as well. I asked Jackye Clayton to join us today too.
Well, and just maybe before Gerry goes into that, Gerry, I mean, I'll just add one more thing. I did a town hall yesterday. Jess, you were part of it. We had 700 people on it inside the organization. And I got pinged by 2 people last night on Teams saying, asked me why I didn't mention anything about DEI. And I was like, holy cow. Like, I mean, I get it, but it's really, really interesting. Like, if I said something about everything going on in the world,
right?
I'm not saying this isn't important, but
out of time.
Should we all be talking about this right now? And I guess that's kind of a softball, Gerry.
Yeah. So honestly, I think we should, but I also accept the fact in some town halls I've done, at least 2 or 3, it's really awkward. It's very uncomfortable. It's very personal. I am getting dozens to hundreds of comments, but they're coming personally via email without being public, in part because people are very uncomfortable, very scared.
Is this the political side of it that they're scared of? I mean,
No,
some of
no,
you,
it's not the political side. It's really the shift in the perception of DE and I being hijacked as something that adds value to us in how we measure the degree to which our society becomes, open and welcoming of what has been protected classes, as well as people who have different points of view.
Mhm.
Different points of view is not the inclusion side is not necessarily protected. It's something we value and in a broad sense, but one of the ways in which we measure the degree to which we're willing to accept all of the people in our society is in fact the degree which we can measure those protected classes that over time legally have demonstrated that they're underrepresented in most of our companies to some degree, and the degree to which we're sensitive to that and hiring qualified folks in those protected classes. But right now, DE&I is being demonized as causing everything from the rising price of eggs to crashing airplanes.
so
And
Gerry,
that's making lots of people very uncomfortable, Jason.
yeah,
Mhm.
no, and so Gerry, my question on this is, so I mean, what you just so we get into this whole discussion of freedom of speech,
Yeah.
and I'm going to take freedom of speech. I'm going to add Jessica's point on people don't want to be on a list, and I'm going to be very out there. Then you take the Kanye West tweet storm last night, where he basically said he's a Nazi. And like how in a world where we're trying to promote freedom of speech and we're trying
Yeah.
to promote inclusivity, and then you've got these other things going on, where we're repealing DEI, which is important, or we've got, hey, these freedom of speech platforms out there. Like, where do you see it going? I mean,
Well, I'll give you a couple examples. I'll try and do it very quickly.
you take your time. This is great.
But we've got a couple things going on here. So we have an executive order, and there has been some stuff going on before that. And I will tell you, every lawyer will tell me that that executive order that had to do with illegal discrimination, in fact, is going to take about 18 to 24 months to come to fruition. But so I agree, it's not repealed. A lot of it is questionable,
Mhm.
but it is the statement over and over
Right.
again by a variety of people that is telling people in our country, let's not worry about the law or whether it's legal. We need to act on illegal discrimination of what? And in the beginning, it sounded like, well, of folks that have been discriminated against. Well, no, not necessarily, because it is demonizing a DE&I hire.
Mhm.
So let me just give you an example. Let's assume you're a company with 48 mechanical engineers, and I'm a recruiter, and we've got an opening or a couple openings for mechanical engineers. There's only so many opportunities we're going to have this year, right? Because we're not necessarily going to double or triple, and we're not losing lots of people. And let's assume for the moment we have 2 women who are mechanical engineers. How many might we have? And it's not 50%, because there's not 50% of the mechanical of the people who are women being mechanical engineers. It's 1 in 8. 1 in 8 mechanical engineers are women. So I'm sitting with the hiring manager looking at the fact that we have 2. Ideally, we'd love to be able to grow over time to 6 or more, or a little bit less, or whatever, but something within that framework. So I'm going to make a commitment to try and ensure that we have some quality female mechanical engineers in this slate of 5 people I'm going to give you. And I end up, as from a sourcing point of view, doing that with all the tools that I now have at my disposal, all the AI work and everything else our investment in the Society of Women Engineers, anything we're happen to be doing to find alumni of colleges that are producing more female engineers, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm a good recruiter. I'm working my ass off. I come up with 2 really great candidates and 3 others who are different kinds of folks, but not female. The hiring manager, in my opinion, given the current climate, is not on average going to choose one of those 2 females 40% of the time. That ain't going to happen. If they do it at all, it would be a shock to me. If they hire someone who isn't that female engineer, they avoid being accused of a DE&I hire. And they can talk inclusion and belonging all they want. Because it's not really measurable from that perspective. It's the leaders who should be involved with the issues around belonging. The hiring manager should certainly feel that there's an inclusive opportunity here. But it's me in the TA world that is committed, if you will, to creating a workforce that looks a little bit like our society and the clients and customers that we have, because that's the society I'm in. I'm not talking globally. It's a whole different conversation. And you know what? That's disheartening. I do not want to be accused of purposely bringing to the fore unqualified people, which is really what's coming out from that perspective.
Yeah.
And so I think words matter. And when companies like, and I'll name 2 because they were very clear and very visual, I mean, very well written in terms of what they did, McDonald's and Google most recently, they basically said, we've been doing a good job and we no longer need to spend any time investing in measuring all of this in the future. We really need to eliminate our aspirational goals. And those, to move from 2 women to 6 or whatever it is that you are underrepresented in your company to what would be a representative group of qualified individuals is not aspirational. That should be a critical business goal.
It's confusing to me that so many people are confusing merit-based hiring in this conversation.
Merit has always been the issue, but merit is what you do when you get there.
Yes, and
qualified is a different set of standards that we should be agreeing on. And if I fail as a recruiter to come to the hiring manager and work out what good looks like, that should be on me and on the hiring manager.
Yeah.
But once we determine what's good is, and I deliver that, we have qualified individuals. And granted, there's a lot of discussion and conversation about skills, knowledge, experience, competencies, et cetera, et cetera. All of those are evolving things that we need to work with. But the definition of qualified is something that is worked out in advance and something that any recruiter worth their salt is committed to making happen. There's no sense of hiring an unqualified person, and no hiring manager is going to select an unqualified person. That's just stupid.
So what do you recommend? I mean, Jess, I'm sorry.
Well,
Jess, go ahead. Jess, I'll let you.
Let me try to draw a parallel for people because our community is probably pretty representative of a wide industry, and so people might be all over the place on this as well. Let me try to draw a parallel for people. I run a nonprofit called Diverse Daisies. It's called Diverse Daisies. One of our core values is diversity and inclusion. It's based in Minneapolis. I have been asked by some of our corporate sponsors, why don't I see more diversity in Diverse Daisies? And my answer is, well, you can't see all of it, number one. And Diverse Daisies is very representative of the communities I serve. I can't fabricate something that doesn't exist in Minneapolis. We are representative of the communities we serve. And some of that is diversity you can see. Some of it is diversity you can't see. I'm very aware of socioeconomic status, the makeup of the household, invisible disabilities. Like, we're more diverse than people understand, and people are just going to have to trust me on that. But I'm also, with our core values of diversity and inclusion, I'm responsible for access to Diverse Daisies. If I went to low-hanging fruit and made this nonprofit youth development organization only available in the suburban public schools, if that's the only place I advertised Diverse Daisies, I'm probably going to get 99% of one demographic. It's my responsibility for outreach and awareness and making sure that I remove barriers to access, that I advertise this in other communities and inner city schools as well, that I go to women's shelters. I'm responsible for making sure that the access to this group access for everyone this is designed for, that is there, and then remove barriers to participation. That's how I drive diversity.
And just the problem with that, which I love, totally support.
Please tell me, I solve for this every day.
Is that it only came to be available to us to do when Lyndon Johnson signed Executive Order 11246 into law. And that basically allowed for affirmative action, affirmative efforts to reach out, to spend your time, money, and effort going to specific groups, engaging them, in fact, putting your finger, if you will, out there to on the weight scale to ensure that the pool that we get to draw from is diverse in the sense of everything, what you see, what you can't see, people who are challenged, military, and so on and so forth, as well as differences in just how we think about things. So that was the executive order that was signed 2 weeks ago, basically specifically said that no longer exists. And that is legal for him to do. And the question is now, is it legal for whatever came from that turned into law? And there's going to be some interesting conversations, but it's going to take 18 months to get through them. Mm-hmm. My point is the fundamental baseline for our path to do the things we typically do in sourcing a broad range of folks is being attacked. And I think over time, more and more individuals and groups will step up and find ways to work around. But simply saying, oh, let's just do what we've always done, but we're going to eliminate the word diversity and the word equity from our websites, as many employers are considering doing, and several have already done, impacts other stakeholders. What do I believe then if I'm one of those folks who once viewed as protected class? What am I going to think about that employment brand of that company is one of the issues. And how am I going to feel as a hiring manager if in fact you're maybe telling me, oh, ignore all this, we're just trying to not be viewed negatively and attacked. I don't know. I'm still concerned about it as an individual. I don't know if I can step up to that pressure. And I think a lot of people won't, simply because their company's not backing them up with words. I think words matter. Now the coolest oddball thing, Andrew Gadomski, I think some of you know him. Yeah. I love him. And he's been working for the government, actually, and he told me today that he just took their offer. Yeah, that's what he said. Now, I don't know if that's going to go through or whatever, but he has, for a few years, he's been using a term other than DE&I. He's been using a term called abide. And at first I go, oh, okay, well, I don't know. It's better than MEI. I think that sucks. But what he did was he put access, so access, and then the abide is belonging, inclusion, diversity, and equity. And I'm going, if we change the letters around to create an actual word, it's going to be tougher for them to even find it,
Right.
let alone fight it. And demonize that, that would force them to go over, total way over. So I'll shut up for the moment, but I got to tell you, the reason why I guess I'm engaged is because I'm older than most of you. There are a couple of you on this group that are a little younger than me, and or a lot of you are younger than me, but a couple are my age. And I remember the 1960s. I remember the Equal Rights Act. I remember the kinds of common comments made by majority folks about what they believed about people who would be working who are different from them. And they were not kind. And they made decisions. And it wasn't until we put teeth in the 1964 Civil Rights Act, because it had no teeth. But when we started putting teeth in it, it empowered me as a new recruiter at a Johnson & Johnson to step up to our credo and enforce those issues. And you take a lot of pride in that. And I think we should be taking pride in the work that we do. And I'd hate for recruiters and others to not abide, by doing the right thing in the future. I think it will hurt them from just a soul-crushing point of view.
Hi, Jackye.
Hi, Jackye.
How are y'all doing?
Good to see you again.
Yes, me and Gerry had this conversation just
You did?
last week. Yeah, we talked about it. Talked about it separately. That's why it was so funny when you were like, "Oh, do you want to come on?" I'm like, "Oh my God, it's Jackye and Gerry week."
I know, I love it. Jackye, so much to say. I'm going to start with congratulations.
Thank you.
Like,
I'm not allowed to talk about a thing. I'm like, but I did announce a thing that I went on a vacation that was sponsored and paid for by another organization.
By CBS.
And we took a family movie, so now everybody can watch it. On March 5th.
So if you don't know and follow Jackye Clayton on, first of all, do it on every social media platform. You'll be happier and smarter because of it. But congrats, you're on season 37 of The Amazing Race.
Yes.
Which premieres on CBS next month. And you were quiet about this. You were mum's the word, recording, racing.
Yes.
We can't even ask you everything. We have to watch it.
No, but this is which is funny to know. I didn't tell. If you do follow me, you know that I do 2 podcasts, one live every single week, and I do one with Katie Van Horn. Yes. And I've done them for multiple years. I didn't tell them until the day before, and it was at 11 o'clock at night before I told them that they were going to be making the announcement.
Wow.
So John Baldino and Katie Van Horn, your podcast co-hosts, were also in the dark. I love
That's right.
Now I'm not hurt anymore.
Yeah, no, nobody knew. The only reason that I agreed to even do it is because there's a less than 1% chance of people actually getting on the show.
So you and your sister submitted and you were accepted and you did, like, we can't even ask any question.
No,
Well,
but we'll
congratulations.
get it done. We'll get it done. We'll do the
Yeah,
thing.
I
We'll
can't
get
wait
it
to
done.
watch. I can't wait to watch. And also congratulations. I know this is like a bittersweet congratulations, but you have a new chapter ahead of you because you've departed Textio. And that's
Yeah.
worthy of congratulations because you did big, important, amazing work with a really cool company with a solution that was necessary, is necessary. And now you get to embark on something new to be
Which
decided.
has been so fun. It's been really funny about people are like, congratulations, or oh, this is so good, or I've been waiting, or I have these things I want to work with you on. And it's because the world of work is it's huge, it's big. There's a lot of spaces. I mean, even based on this conversation, we know that there's a lot of space for growth. We haven't always been known in the people world to move as fast as our environment, or whether it's our economy or all of the other things. We don't get there as fast. And so, I'm excited about getting opportunities to work with other companies. And I
Yeah,
think that do offer a very unique perspective. How about
yeah, absolutely. Look at that picture. What's your sister's name?
that? Lauren,
Are you still friends at the end of the?
yes. Which, yes. Yeah, we're still friends. We didn't talk for 3 weeks after we got home,
Really?
but because we were sleeping, but we
Yeah,
slept
yeah.
we
You
slept the
were
whole time.
exhausted. Thanks
Mm-hmm.
for coming on last minute. I miss
Jackye,
you.
can you share a little of your conversation with Gerry?
Yeah, I'd love to.
Yeah, we
Can
were
you,
just talking about this. What we were talking about, I was like, I would be so dramatically offended if somebody thought that I was a DEI hire. Number one. Number two, like, because my world of work has been talent acquisition from all of the spaces. It started as a technical recruiter, and I learned the work that I was doing from trying to find hard to find candidates is how it started. And it morphed into DEI recruiting because those were listed as hard to find candidates because unlike what they've announced, like just Black people in general, it's 14% within the United States. So we're talking about a law to try to get, like less than 2 out of 10 to get an opportunity. But we also know that, like you talked about with your own organization, you look left, you look right, and then you're like, okay, we're going to get, these are the people I'm going to bring into those places. And I was like, it would be really offensive. I wonder if people would think that that's what would happen, like me being there, showing up and going into startups to talk to them about their talent acquisition. They're worried that they're going to be viewed as having a DEI hire and not make the hire, even though I've got more than 20 years of experience and more than 10 years with startups in the HR tech space.
Yeah.
Right?
so
Yeah.
think about that for a second, a DEI hire. And I look at Lynn's comment. Sometimes people speak about any minority hire as a DEI hire. Honestly,
Well, this is the thing that I explained to somebody else, Jason, and I don't mean to cut you off, but I want people to
no,
think.
please do. I cut everyone off, so this is great.
I want people to think about it like this. If you get married, people who get married often have a wedding planner. They
Get
spend
married often. Yeah.
years trying to put a wedding together. And the reason that it takes years for one day is because we want the people getting married to be able to celebrate in that moment. And the person, all I'm thinking about if I'm getting married is the dress and, where's the drink and what the cake is like. A wedding planner is going to say, your Aunt Mary is coming from the Philippines. We want to make sure that her needs are met. We want to make sure your grandpa can get there. We want to fly everybody in from this other place. We know this person's in the hospital. We want to have a Zoom call, all so that we know that everybody can participate in this special day and nothing's going to get in the way of us bringing the people together, right? So we have these organizations that have these tools that we're letting into the world. We want everybody to have access to this book, this car, this whatever.
Yeah.
And we want to make sure that we lower the friction to be able to do that. So we have wedding planners to make sure that everybody's taken care of. Well, now we're taking away diversity, equity, and belonging. And poor Aunt Mary from the Philippines is sitting in the corner with dietary restrictions that she can't tell anybody about, and she's about to eat a peanut and have anaphylactic shock.
Yeah.
And they're going to say, well, nobody knew that they were there. Because the thing that's interesting is I see this a lot with my white friends. I'm talking about race, just race for right now.
Yeah.
And I'll say, I look at these pictures of family photos and I'm like, do they ever notice that there's no Black people in their picture? Do they notice that there's nobody else in their picture? No, I do.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm one of the rare, I'm one of the small minority group. So
Can
it's
I share my screen?
Please. I hope you have the right permission. Oh, good.
This scares me, Jess.
This is my family.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Oh my gosh, you should be so proud.
that's a really big family.
That is a big family. This is Gerry's legacy right here.
Yeah, I'm going to unshare, but my point, I'm sensitive to that point as well,
Mhm.
and I think it's an important point to make.
Yeah.
And I wish people would use diversity, equity, and inclusion instead of just throwing DEI or words like abide for the same reason, because own it. If you're against diversity, equity, and inclusion, and you don't want diversity, equity, and inclusion to be part of your company, then just say, I don't want diversity, equity, and belonging at my company. You shouldn't be allowed to say DEI in those point at that point. Like, say what you're really saying, because
Oh, I love
that's
that.
part of the reason why people are so confused.
Yes.
That is the name of the podcast right there. Say what you're really saying.
I like that.
Yeah, because
I
then you're
love
talking
that.
about it as a philosophy.
Or as Nicole just put, say the freaking words. Maybe
Yeah.
that's
Maybe that's a good.
Because it's a belief system. And the other part that drives me nuts about this is that if you're able to throw away a DEI policy so casually, then you were never able to connect the dots, and shame on you in the first place. Then you were never able to say, bringing more diverse perspectives actually makes our strategy and execution stronger. Creating inclusive spaces creates higher performing people in the workforce. So if you were able to throw away the policy so easily, you probably shouldn't have been responsible for it in the first place, because you weren't able to connect it to the business.
It
You
would have been too difficult. It would have been too difficult. Like, I know, like leaving Textio and all of the piece, I'm not worried about whether or not they're still adhering to the DEI policies and the way that I put in. I know they are, because
Mhm.
it's fully embedded into the whole process. I know that part. And you're absolutely right. And the other part is actually recognizing it not just as something that's important, but an actual practice and area of expertise. And you don't being a part of an underrepresented group does not make you an expert in knowing how to implement changes or a place of a word. Again, everybody knows how to go to a party and say I do, but you always get a wedding planner because you have somebody who's specifically there to make sure and think about all the needs that you need within your.
Yeah.
I want to address a comment that was just made, which I think is an important one to address, and that is many of these executive orders focusing on federal employees only.
Thanks,
Yes.
Gerry.
And in part, a lot of the affirmative action, a lot of the requirements, if you will, are specifically focused in on federal or employers that have federal contracts. However, those companies that don't have federal contracts are still liable for discrimination, and discrimination is defined within the framework
Right.
of those executive orders, et cetera. So if you don't operate on your own to comply with doing some calculations about whether or not you are so underrepresented that you might be sued by the next person who you turn down, and you won't be able to prove that you don't have institutionalized the exclusion of those individuals, then you're a little bit crazy, because we got tens of millions of dollars being given away, being, penalized to companies that are ignoring those rules, federal employees or not. So a lot of the standards and baselines are built within the construct of companies that have federal contracts. We'll leave it at that.
Mm-hmm.
So Gerry, I want to go back to the discussion, around, Heather just put I forgot how she worded it, but the EO has no legal effect on private employers. The president cannot tell employees how to run their business. So why are companies coming out and making public statements? Is that back to the list?
Yeah, I mean, Lexi is right, except it's illegal to discriminate, and there are means to determine that. And so if you are sued, you will lose, and you could lose your entire company. And there are companies that go down. We don't publish how much money each year is spent by employers defending and being penalized for their failure to hire.
I think there's another part in there that people also don't recognize, because I live in fear every day and I work for myself.
Oh,
So
that's critical.
so the impact that you'll see, whether it's legal or not, people know what the company culture is internally. And what you'll start seeing is more people out of work, or like leave more sick days, less vacation time, more out for mental health, an increase in needing for therapy and counseling. We'll start seeing these types of things, children acting up in school. Like these are the things that we end up seeing.
I've had several notes of people who are involved in companies in which underrepresented folks are telling them, I'm leaving. I don't no longer feel comfortable here. People feel comfortable telling me that I'm not wanted here. Kids in school are already beginning to hear those kinds of things.
That's right.
So the point of all of what's going on, I think, is so hurtful, not just from the whether or not it's legal, but the messages that it's sending everywhere. And I don't think it's helpful. And I want to hear more voices, is the point. I don't hear a lot of Black or lesbian or gay or military or disabled folks stepping up. And I will tell you, because they're in many instances really concerned as to whether or not they will be attacked in a much more direct way. And there's this, I think, hope that if we hunker down for a while, it'll go away. And I just don't think so.
Because they can't hide. That's the thing to remember. Like it is just bringing up at the front of the conversation. And, I don't think Jason has to be the voice for everyone. But I think that by bringing it up, it does make people feel safe that we're not overlooking those things, because some of us can't overlook. I can't just not talk about it.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and I feel compelled to do it, even if it makes my members feel a little awkward. So it is what it is.
Yeah. Bob, good point. So ironically, well, not even ironically, I've had him booked for a month. Warren Ellis will be on with us next Friday.
Cool.
Not to talk about this, although I'm sure we will. Along with aptitude research, Torrin supported some research about AI's ability to help detect and eliminate bias in people, processes, and systems. That's research that's been in the making for a while. I can't wait to get a readout of what they found. But that, like, this topic, like, how do we detect and eliminate bias? The why, the so what of that is the whole point of this conversation. So we can have fair and equitable systems. So people get fair and equal treatment. So we have equal access to opportunities. Like, I can't believe we're still asking the why and so what.
Right.
which is kind of like this conversation, but here we are.
I think we're going to be talking about AI and its ability to impact obviously everything, but if we can focus in on the HR and TA and human parts of how workforces operate, I think that's going to be pretty cool. And I think there's a lot of ideas out there that we really have not even begun to execute on.
Yeah. And
And
Bob,
Jason, I love the one that you were talking about earlier with the ability to think about an application and then articulate it and have it be developed for you. I mean, the ability to go from zeros and ones to that level
yeah.
of comprehension, if you will, from a technology point of view is mind-boggling, and we're only beginning to understand how to use it.
Yeah. Thank you both for coming into this safe space with us to have a brave conversation. I can't even believe it's a brave conversation. But we needed to be had, and I'm sorry it was overdue. I've had a number of
Thanks for
people.
having us.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jackye, I cannot wait to watch the amazing. I'm going to be like your literal biggest fan. I can't wait. I already was.
New adventure.
Thank you, everybody. Happy Friday. Have a beautiful weekend.
And Gerry, Jackye, any Super Bowl picks?
Oh,
Oh,
You don't have to have one. It's all good.
I'm scared of that too.
I'm
I'm
hoping.
watching.
No.
Ah,
Okay. Well, have a good weekend, everyone.
All right,
thanks,
peace.
everybody.
Much love. Bye-bye.
Right.
Bye-bye.